think about the data story and what does it take to wrap those proper guardrails around it and bring that compliance point of view, we need to also bear in mind the risk of not doing so. And while there are all kinds of drivers to move forward with data related projects and data related outcomes, it's just super important that the proper steps are followed in order to keep that data safe and secure and to not expose the organization. We talk about things like staying out of the news and not wanting to be in a headline as an organization due to data breaches or data leaks and things of that nature. When we think about the real future of data and how the foundation that we're laying is going to drive these positive business outcomes, a lot of it is around the AI use cases. And we'll talk about those in some more length at the upcoming forum in Denver. But the real driver here is around productivity, enabling your consumers of the data to have better accessibility and democratizing that data so that they can have access to the data that they're supposed to have access to, but doing that in a way that they don't get access to things that they're not supposed to have access to, et cetera. So that's a huge element of it. But then thirdly, driving towards innovation, being able to leverage data that has been well governed and has been made secure to drive those outcomes that may seem almost pie in the sky, but like, how do we configure our data or leverage our data to make decisions about investment or around where we should be thinking of moving in the market and things like that. We always take a minute and talk about this as a maturity scale as well. So when we think about governance and compliance, there are different phases that we go through when it comes to maturing the data estate so that it can be tapped into for these AI use cases and AI outcomes. And so this chart just gives you a sense of what that looks like and how you can move up the curve. And we see organizations all across the board when it comes to these stages. So we just encourage you to think about where is your organization at today, where is your firm, and what are some of the things that are driving where you're at today, whether that's you're more on the lower maturity, the bottom left, or if you feel like there's really some momentum going and you're starting to get into some of those more leading positions. We did do a survey that we wanted to share a few results of, and these are sprinkled throughout the presentation today. But the first question was, how would you describe your firm's current AI adoption? And it was overwhelmingly organizations are saying that they've experimented with AI, but really haven't implemented anything at scale, which is interesting because it speaks to this challenge of not having enough security and compliance and governance around the data that is required in order to drive these AI use cases. And so that's the rub, and that's where most organizations are challenged. We also think in terms of use case maturity, and what we want to talk about today is on the more simplified base when it comes to leveraging AI. When we talk about SaaS-based agents, what we're talking about there are things that would be related to your CRM platform as an example. So if you're using Salesforce or you're using Dynamics, those are contained data sources that you can then have your agents running on top of. And that gives you an AI experience for your users that they can interface with that data. And you may not necessarily need to ride all the way up the curve to where you're starting to use predictive analysis and things like that. When we are looking at how to help organizations get started, we're typically looking at making sure that the governance is there around the CRM data as an example. And then that will lead to the ability to start leveraging these SaaS-based agents. There's a future state that we then aspire to and drive toward where we're bringing multiple data sources together and we're starting to get into some of the more complex workloads when it comes to AI usage. Another survey result, this one was a lot more mixed, but which AI-powered capability would bring the most value to your team today? And it was interesting for these respondents. The top one there was the next best action recommendations for sales and marketing. And that's absolutely helpful when it comes to driving a positive business results. But then a few other ones there, automated meeting summaries and CRM updates. We're having a lot of conversations with firms right now around what we are calling outcome-based CRM. And when we're talking about outcome-based CRM, we're talking about Mike likes to use the term CRM where you work. So interacting with the CRM platform within Outlook or within Teams, rather than having your teams log into the interface itself. So Mike, do you want to take a minute and talk about that?
Yeah, most of us have probably at least dabbled a little bit with ChatGPT, right? And it does a fantastic job of creating emails, creating documents, of summarizing information. But where it really gets exciting as you're growing on that maturity scale, the idea of agentic AI or autonomous AI is what we're doing now when it comes to CRM, where the agent is working on your behalf to do things for you, right? Not just simply things that you're asking it to do to summarize information, but it can go out and create records. If I have a new lead or if I have a new referral, I need to update an opportunity, you can actually now have your agents go out and do that lifting for you. So that significantly increases productivity of the end users, increases their satisfaction, which then ultimately allows us to focus more on customers and clients, and that makes them happy too. So we're really excited about this new era of agentic AI. And here's just some of those examples of the things that we've been working with clients similar as yours. A couple ones in particular. Oh, sorry about that. Just briefly, I want to show that document management and contract and policies agents are able to actually read through these documents, whether it's an RFP, a letter of intent, any sort of compliance documents. It can read and summarize that information, but it can also extract the data out of it and then automatically update your systems of record. And I use that term because that's what we've always dealt with, right, as a system of record. What we now have, though, we're focused on system of outcomes, right? We want these agents to help us drive towards better outcomes. So we even just create little things like the pipeline review helper, the lead helper, the relationship linker, right? All of these things are really having a huge impact on productivity and efficiency. And we're seeing great interest in this area.
Thanks, Mike. So just a smattering of particular outcomes or agents that we're developing, but all of this again in the context of making sure that the data that is supporting these agents is well governed and is secure and is compliant for your end users, whether that's your wholesalers or whomever is responding to the RFPs on the institutional side, and just being able to provide them with as much information as possible within the bounds of what they should be exposed to.